I'm going to show you a cross stitch pattern for crochet. There are many different kinds of patterns that can be called crossed stitches or cross stitch. This is just one example of a cross stitch pattern. To begin, I'm going to chain a multiple of 6 plus 2. I think I have 20 chains here, which would be a multiple of 6 plus 2. I don't count the slip knot, and I don't count the loop on my hook. I just count the chains in between. Okay, so I have 20 chains. And my foundation row is to single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain across. So I'm not going to chain in this first chain from hook, I'm going to chain in the second chain from hook. I like to work in the back bump of the chain, so I'm going to rotate this towards me so I can work under this bump that's at the back of the chain. That leaves a nice edge at the bottom of my piece. I'll do a single crochet in each chain across. Now, if your chain was too tight, you won't be able to get your hook into this bump. And if you find that you're really struggling to get your hook under the bump, then you need to go back and chain more loosely so that you can just slip it right on in there. If you prefer not to work in the back bump of the chain and you want to work into the front of the chain, that's fine too. The last stitch goes into the last chain, and I ignore the slip knot. Now I'm going to want to go back and count to make sure that I have the right number of multiples. I should have a multiple of 6 stitches plus 1. So I have 19 stitches, which is a multiple of 6 plus 1. Now I'm going to turn, and my first row, which is a right side row, because this row was my foundation or setup row, my first row says to chain 2 and double crochet in the first 2 stitches. Now I'm not going to count this chain 2 as a double crochet, so I'm going to put my first stitch right into the base of that chain. It's in the very first stitch because I am not counting that chain as a stitch. So I'm going to double crochet into the first 2 stitches. Now I'm going to work my crossed double crochets. My pattern tells me to work my crossed double crochets this way. It says to skip 1 stitch and double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So I'm skipping this stitch, I'm going to work a double crochet in the next stitch, and then a double crochet in the next stitch, and then double crochet into the skipped stitch. So I'm going to yarn over and then bring my hook way back here to put it under both loops of the V of that stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, and make sure I pull it up a little bit longer than usual. I don't want to leave it way back here. I want to pull it up to where my hook is now, and then yarn over and pull through 2 twice. So I have crossed 1 stitch over 2 stitches, and I get kind of that long leg going there, going back to the skipped stitch. Let's do that section again. We're going to double crochet in the next 3 stitches. Now I'm going to work my series of crossed doubles. Skip 1, double crochet in the next 2, then double crochet in the skipped one. And I use the other fingers of my hand that's holding the hook to kind of hold this open and out of the way so I can go back here and find where that stitch goes, right into that skipped stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, then yarn over, pull through 2 twice to finish that double crochet. then this row ends with double crochet in the last 2 stitches. So there you can see I have crossed stitches separated by regular double crochets. The wrong side row is easy. I'll turn, chain 1, and just single crochet in each stitch across. End the row by working into the last double crochet, and remember we did not count that chain 2 turning chain as a stitch, so I don't work into that top of the chain because it's not really a stitch. I'll turn, chain 2, and then double crochet into the first 5 stitches. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be offsetting these crossed stitches and have them here and here on this row. So I need to work a lot of plain double crochets to start off the row. I'll work right into the very first stitch because I'm not using that double crochet, not using that chain, turning chain as a stitch. I'm working into the first stitch. So I'm going to work 5 double crochets, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then work my crossed double crochets. And you can see that these crossed double crochets are worked over 3 stitches, and they're worked on top of or line up with the 3 plain stitches from a couple of rows below. Now there are 3 plain double crochets, and those line up with the crossed stitches from a couple of rows below. And then when I finish that repeat, I have 2 stitches left in the row, and that is just 2 plain double crochets. So the row begins and ends with 5 double crochets, and my crossed stitches are opposite or offset from each other. You may notice here, as I put it down, I noticed that my chain is drawing in a little bit. You see how my fabric is growing out a little bit? That means my chain in my first row were too tight. I need to go back and rip that out because I'm not going to be happy with always trying to make this looser or straighten it out. Anytime it's pulling in like this, that means that foundation chain was too tight, and the only real way to fix it is to go back and start again with a looser chain. And that's what I need to do. Once I've gone back and fixed my chain so that it's a little bit looser, I can just continue working, repeating these 4 rows for my stitch pattern until my piece is as long as I want it to be. I want to end with a wrong side row, in other words, end with a single crochet row for my piece to be balanced. If you'd like more knit instruction like this, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Check out the links in the video notes for more ways you can find me. Thanks for watching.